Jeff, the evolving state of France-U.S. relations can perhaps be told as a tale of the handshakes. President Trump and President Macron's lengthy, friendly shake made headlines at Bastille Day celebrations, but the vibes between the two weren't always so warm. It started at the NATO summit in May. Their sideline meeting in Brussels turned into a white-knuckle affair. Macron admitted he was sending Trump a message. Later, Trump gave his trademark tug-of-war handshake after Macron greeted German Chancellor Angela Merkel first. Then at the G20 last week, a change in tone. Their tug-of-war handshake turned into a clasp, and later Macron actually moved next to Trump for the G20 family photo. So what to make of this evolving relationship? I'm joined now by Maxime Larivé from Miami. He's the Associate Director of the European Union Center at the University of Illinois. Maxime, Trump certainly got the royal treatment in Paris. A quite contrast from Macron and Trump's first encounter just a few months ago. What changed?
Well, this is a relationship that's evolving and that's building. The title today in Political Europe was From Mano a Mano to a Tête-à-Tête, describing this relationship. President Macron, really new French president, is really trying to rebuild the standing of France as an international player. And he is trying to re-establish himself and re-establish French. He understood the kind of personage that Donald Trump is, reacting very well to strong charisma and power and influence. And I think this has been part of his strategy to build the relationship, the personal relationship with the President of the United States, first by showing strength, projecting power, and then now trying to have a more deep and a human relationship in order to try to work with the Americans.
So does Macron believe he can actually influence Trump with flattery, with all this attention, with, as far as his policy positions go?
Yeah, I mean, this is the hope in Paris, and this has been the hope at the Élysée Palace, which is the French White House, believing that by having and building a true relationship, and in a true, I'm talking of a true relationship between the two men, then ultimately France could have a greater impact in trying to maybe influence or assist and help shaping the way Donald Trump sees the world and understand the way the Americans need to be involved in global affairs. However, I think Paris and the different political aides around Emmanuel Macron know very well that this is going to be a building relationship. This is a major task, and they understand that usually what happened in a bilateral meeting can change a couple of days later through a tweet or all kind of different kind of policy announcements made in Washington.
It was fascinating to see Macron's diplomatic skills at play. He's clearly a political newcomer, but you would never know it. Watching his interaction with Donald Trump and really trying to put the American president at ease.
That is absolutely correct. France, without sounding too patriotic, spends an enormous amount of funds and training in its diplomacy. France, along the Americans, the Brits, and the Chinese, have really strong historical relationship and strong involvement in the shaping of diplomacy. And so this is part of the tapis rouge in some ways, where they are trying to bring the Americans here in Paris and show a different side of France. As you can recall, right after the terrorist attack in Nice, Donald Trump, a candidate then, had some really strong warns against Paris, against France, saying that it was not the country he used to know, and a country that was not able to control its own security and project power. This is clearly changing under Emmanuel Macron, at least in terms of perception.
And you mentioned perception for Trump, but what about the French people? Do you think their perception of the U.S. president changed after this trip? And we have a short amount of time.
Yeah, well, the country is really divided on that specific question. If you were to look at perception, and the Pew Research Center has done extensive work on this, the French and the Americans have deep relationship and very positive view of one another. However, on the perception of this current American president, the French are really have a negative perception of that specific man. This was very clear at the end of the tenure of President Obama, where the French saw very positively in light the president. This completely declined overnight once President Trump was elected. But this is a major topic of discussion right now in France.
All right, we'll leave it there. Maxime Larivé, thank you so much.